Welcome back to Hobby Jogger Elite and welcome to race week. Not technically race week, we're actually 8 days out from the race. So while we're not in race week quite yet for my upcoming marathon next Sunday, I do consider the sort of weekend prior to a race the start of race week, because this is when I'm doing my final long run. So I usually like to do it about 8 days out. If marathon's on a Sunday, I will do mine on Saturday. It is typically much shorter than your usual higher mileage long runs. My go-to workout, 3x2 miles at Marathon Effort or 2x3 miles at Marathon Effort, sandwiched in between a 13 to 15 mile medium long run. Usually gets the job done. 14 miles an hour in 38 minutes, just over 7 flat average pace, and hit Marathon Effort paces exactly as I intended to. And again, I emphasize Marathon Effort because I want it to feel a certain way more than look a certain way. Even though it is only 7 or 8 days out from the race, you might tell yourself, and I have in the past, the hay is in the barn at this point. I feel a lot better when I keep my legs turning over at pace I want to run on race day. And even this close to the race, I still want to practice making that race pace feel as comfortable as possible. So for me today, a workout like this looked like a 4-mile warm-up followed by 1 3-mile section at 6:28, 6:28, and 6:27 with a mile easy float, and then a second 3-mile section at 6:28, 6:26, and 6:25, followed by a 3-mile cool down to 14 miles. And in the midst of that, I am also trying to make sure that my stomach is still very accepting of the race day nutrition I plan to use. So for me, even though on a normal 14-mile run, typically I probably won't even take anything with me at all if I'm doing a medium long run at 14 miles or even a workout. Sometimes I'm bringing gels and a handheld with me when I'm really trying to practice race day nutrition, but just at its most basic, I don't really need, and most people probably don't need, a ton for a 14-mile run. But I took 3 gels out there, as well as a full 17-ounce handheld soft flask with another 80 grams of carbs. So that's about just shy of 160 grams of carbs in just over an hour and a half, which is well over 80 grams per hour. And that 80 to 100 gram per hour is typically what I'm shooting for when my stomach is feeling really good. Typically, that is in cooler weather for me at less intense efforts and paces like Marathon Effort, for instance. I can get closer to that 100 grams. So I'm trying to sort of get my stomach acclimated to that, even down to the wire here. I'm also trying to wear the gear that I want to or am thinking about wearing for race day. So that means, not only practicing with nutrition, wearing the shoes I intend to wear. I'm an Alpha Fly 1 type of guy, so I'm wearing these for most of my marathon efforts. So still doing that up to the final long run 8 days out here. Right, so hanging out here 7 days out from race day. Got the Eagles gear on, just relaxing. Had a nice little 10K easy run to close out the week before race week. Got to, I think, like 64 miles or so for the week, and sort of just under 8 hours of actual running. So pretty typical, like, week before race week type of mileage for me. It's kind of relaxing watching the good old New York City Marathon there. Hope to be running on those streets one day. Sunday before a race, sort of 7 days out, always for me kind of a good time to go through that checklist of like what I need to do this week, whether that's around the house or with work or whatever it might be, because the last thing I want to be worrying about in the days leading up is catching up on a bunch of stuff that will make me more stressed out. And I tend to be more influenced by like life-related stressors than like running-related stressors, but then your body kind of perceives stress as stress no matter where it's coming from. So goal for me usually at this point, like a weekend before the race, is just to make sure all my ducks are in a row so that I virtually have like the least amount possible to worry about over the course of the next 7 days. So yeah, just watching the end part here of the New York City Marathon and making sure my week setting me up for success. It is Monday, 6 days out from the marathon on the return commute home from work. Mondays, they are pretty difficult for, I would say, most people, whether you're running a marathon in 6 days or not. So this is usually the day that I give myself a bit more grace, and I don't usually do my run in the morning. I usually wait till the evening after work. 6 days out, pretty normal during the race week for me. This is usually my lowest mileage day of the week, just sort of year round and, according to my usual schedule. So won't be that much different on race week. Looking to get probably 6 to 7 miles in 2 days. So yeah, nothing too exciting here. 6 days out, just sort of the usual Monday. Five days out from the marathon, currently warming up for my last official workout. And these race week workouts that are sort of tune-up workouts are the workouts where I always have to remind myself the only way this workout will physiologically influence you on race day is in a negative way if you go too hard. So there's no motivation at this point to be trying to gain fitness for your actual race, because 5 days out, you're not going to realize those aerobic benefits. It's just too close in proximity. So if anything, this is more of just keeping your legs and your tendons happy. Yeah, I have to remind myself that quite a bit, because workouts are like the running highlight of my week when it comes to these quality sessions. And on race week, there's no reason for that to be the case, because the race is the highlight of the week. So the session that I like to do here is just a few mile repeats around what your goal race effort or pace is going to be. So for today, that workout for me is going to be a 2-mile warm-up followed by 4-mile repeats with a 3-minute rest in between each. Probably just jog easy for that rest. The mile repeats will be at sort of goal marathon effort, and then 2-mile cool down. So somewhere between probably 8 or 9 miles. If I feel good and feel solid for that last mile repeat, maybe I'll let myself do it towards more of a threshold effort. But ultimately, again, I'm wearing the shoes I intend to wear on race day. I'm still taking in race day nutrition. This is ultimately just more practice, more of a confidence booster for race day for me. So not trying to do anything special or flashy here. Only 5 days out. Right, 5 days out, tune-up workout is done. 4 by mile in the books to be first 3-mile repeats at more of a marathon effort, which I think for those mile splits landed me at like 6:27, 6:23, and 6:20. So I got a tiny bit quicker with each one. Wasn't entirely intentional. It's just I usually find the first rep to be sort of a warm-up rep, but I don't even think I'll be running that pace for the marathon to begin with. Maybe more close to that warm-up rep, but regardless, felt good today. So just sort of ran it by effort, not by an exact number. And then since I was feeling good, I let myself do that 4th mile rep at more of a threshold pace. So I think that one was around 6:05 or 6:06. Felt nice. Always feels good to put a little bit more force into the Alpha Fly 1. So solid last tune-up workout here. Gonna cool down. Probably end up right at maybe a little shy of 9 miles, 8.8 or so. So yeah, solid day here out on the trail. All right, it is now Thursday. Completely forgot to record yesterday. Very busy day. And on top of that, it was like 82 degrees and 100% humidity for my run after work. So big part of me did not even want to go for that run because it was like 40 degrees a couple days ago, and now all of a sudden it is summer in Pennsylvania again. So that is November for you, I guess. Yeah, I got in 5 miles yesterday at a nice recovery pace. Really just like dragged my feet through that. And then just now this morning got in 6 miles. So not a ton of reason to today being a little longer than yesterday, honestly. Just felt a little bit better running in 70-degree temperatures instead of 80-degree temperatures yesterday afternoon. And yeah, I run as much for just like my mental well-being and needing to go for a run every day as I do for performance. Usually I would begin my carb load today, which is 3 days out. And historically with like the carb calculator, I use the one from Featherstone Nutrition. When I put in like my weight and my age and distance and goals and all that stuff, it is like you need to consume an ungodly amount of carbs if you're doing a 2-day carb load. And it is essentially like the calculator recommends you to consume over, I think it's like 800 or 900 grams over a 2-day carb load. Try a 3-day carb load instead. And then the 3-day always recommends me 600 grams, which I find not all that difficult to get 600 grams of carbs in because, you know, naturally if I could literally eat every minute of the day. I just have like an unending appetite. That's just kind of how I've always been. But I did a 3-day carb load for Chicago and I just like felt full the whole time. Whereas like last year during my 2023 marathon training, when I did the 3-day carb load, I felt hungry and I was like happy to keep consuming that because I think my body was like, yeah, we'll take some more carbs. You've been training hard. Happy to replenish here. I don't know what that means that this time in Chicago, every time I had to eat again or every time it was like time to get some more carbs in, I wasn't really like craving food or wasn't really like hungry at all. So I think I'm gonna try a 2-day this time and aim for around like 700 grams of carbs a day instead of the 3-day because it's like a lot to just be constantly taking in carbs for 3 days straight. So changing things up, you know, trial and error. Things don't always work, even if they've worked before. And I try to be sort of dynamic with that. So in essence, the goal here, mileage is low, recovery efforts are high. Haven't been sleeping that great as of late. And, you know, my resting heart rate is a little bit up and my like general easy run heart rate is slightly elevated, which I'm not really too concerned about. I think part of it is the fact that the temperatures have doubled seemingly. And also just pretty stressful general week. Wedding planning. There happened to be an election in the US this week, which, you know, just fighting off door-to-door election solicitors and all that good stuff was like a part-time job in itself. And then just all the other general life stuff. So I need to prioritize good sleep, maybe even try to sneak a nap in if I can here and there over the next couple days. And tomorrow is when the feasting of the carbs begins. But otherwise, feeling good. All right, out for the Friday run, just 2 days removed from the marathon itself. The objective, my North Star, very simple. Keep things simple. I know for me, you know, like I've said in the past, whether it's a running related stressor or a life related stressor, those things have tangible impacts on me on race day. So I'm trying to make life as easy as possible for me in ideally the whole lead up to the race, but especially so in these last 48 to 72 hours. So 2 days out, the longest I will allow my run to be. It's about 40 minutes, running easy for the most part. Might throw in a couple extended strides, so whether that's 30 seconds, a minute, 90 seconds at marathon effort. But other than that, everything is easy. There's also a time that I find I need to listen to my body as much as possible. So that's why I'm not really doing like get to this many miles today. You know, whether the pace is 7 flat pace or 9:30 pace per mile for these 40 minutes, I don't really care as long as I am feeling good 2 days out. So those are sort of the running related motions that I'm going through. All right, 2 days out, the run is all done. Today, this time around, that looked like 5.13 miles for me in 40 minutes flat. No extra seconds because I hold myself to that 40-minute limit. So yeah, did those 2 sort of extended strides, essentially 400-meter reps at marathon effort, and they felt great. My intention with doing those is that, well, more so my wish with doing those is that they feel like second nature, like running at marathon effort for especially only, 400 meters, a quarter mile. If at this point that is feeling difficult for me to do, then I'm either not going to have a good race day or just everything needs to be reevaluated. So it felt so buttery today. Felt like a brisk jog, which again, if you intend to run at something for 26 miles, shouldn't feel bad in the least for 400 meters. So that was great. And in addition to that, 5 miles, a couple strides, 40 minutes of running. Friday this time around is also the day that I will be starting my carb load. I usually start 3 days out and do a 3-day carb load. But again, I just sort of carry this fullness with me for days and days in that case. So just experimenting a little and seeing if, doing it for 2 days can be equally as effective. I have learned through trial and error sort of what the smartest, most optimal way, at least for me and my body, my digestive system, is to do this thing. Because if you are sort of new to running, you're probably familiar with the term carb loading. And like me, I, early on in my marathoning days, assumed that I just kind of like stuff my face with whatever carbs I can get my hands on. Doesn't matter what they are, what they look like, as long as I am like eating a lot of them, I'll be good to go. Sometimes just by sheer luck, no issues came about. And other times, even with more knowledge and more intention, issues have come up regardless. So I tend to find my stomach reacts to things in a pretty unpredictable manner, whether I'm doing things intelligently or just sort of like throwing caution to the wind and seeing what happens. So what I find most consistently works for me with carb loading, and the carb load is going to look different for you depending on what your goal is, whether it's just performance or to finish the race, whether it is running a full marathon or maybe a half marathon or an ultra, all different things. Intensity, distance, your body weight, your age, all different type of stuff is considered in the formula for how you should personally be carb loading. So do not take my numbers as what you should do. This is just what I've learned about me. So doing 2 days this time, and I'm going to try to be in that 650 to 700 range for the 2 days. So the way things look today, I'll probably be around that 650 point. If I can get to 700, great. Same goes for tomorrow, but that's sort of the range I'm working with. I'm seeking out things that are very easy on the stomach, quick digesting carbs that do not satiate me an incredible amount. In other words, I can eat a lot of it and it doesn't make me feel too full. Just by the sheer amount that I'm eating, I still feel full. But with eating things like white rice, white bread, drinking Tailwind, putting honey on things, I'm not as aware of the sheer amount of carbs I'm ingesting. So those are sort of my go-to foods. And again, I'll probably be eating some things that have a little bit of fiber. Fiber is always a tricky thing with people around the carb load, because if you are eating a lot of fiber on top of all of this food, a lot will come out. and you essentially don't want to have that issue be sprung upon you at mile 12 of the race. So the goal is to not overdo fiber from my understanding, but at the same time, like, I need some fiber just to like keep my systems happy and feeling fine. I've like attempted to have less than 10 grams of fiber while having like over 600 grams of carbs in the past, and my body just feels very, very weird. So I'll still have like a vegetable here and there, you know, maybe I'll throw in some broccoli, maybe some sweet potato, just so there's some nutrient dense fiber type of nutrition present. Otherwise, it is just hammering white rice, white bread, white bagels. So yeah, hopefully that helps. Okay, it is Saturday. We have made it to the weekend. Seems like the weather has turned back to fall just in time here for race weekend. So certainly grateful for that. Everything 48 hours and carb load related went well yesterday. Ended up getting just shy of 700 grams of carbs. Felt great doing it. Hope to do the same today here. And yeah, this is obviously the last run before the actual big one tomorrow. So not a ton going on here. I usually try to cap it at like 30 minutes maximum. So could be anywhere from 3 to 4 miles really. Might throw in a stride or two just to get the legs nice and woken up, primed for tomorrow, but really at this point there is not much else to do. So yeah, that will be just about it from me for the taper. It's been fun sort of documenting this on a day-by-day basis, and hopefully maybe you're tinkering, trying new things. Let me know what you think of what I did throughout this week. Let me know what your favorite taper week workouts are, all that good stuff. So yeah, we will catch up next time. From here, there's only one thing left to do.